Okay, everyone, good afternoon. It's a cold January 30th afternoon here in North Georgia, and I am joined today by Attorney General candidate and current State House of Representatives representative of I think it's District 62.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay. Tanya Miller. Tanya, welcome. Thank you for coming by today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
And I know you're a busy woman and you got stuff to do, and so we'll get right to it. Normally, what I do at the beginning of these is I give the candidate just a minute, 2 minutes, however you want to take, to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, your background, your history, family, whatever you want to talk about. So I'll turn the video over to you now to do that.
Okay, great. Well, hello. Hello, Tom. Hello, everyone. I'm Tanya Miller. I am a Georgia State representative, current chair of the Georgia House Democratic Caucus, and a trial lawyer by trade. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. My family is originally from the Mississippi area. My mom kind of made her way up to the Midwest for factory jobs. So that's where I grew up. I grew up in a union family in a union town. That's kind of what Cleveland, Ohio is known for. And kind of grew up in a household focused on the rights and the dignity of workers and working families. We considered ourselves a part of the working class or working poor. We talked a lot about worker issues and politics in my house, and there was always this this sort of core belief or ethos that the dignity of work should be protected, and that working people were really the engine behind our community and our country, more or less. We didn't have lawyers. We didn't have money for lawyers, but we had union stewards. And in my family, a union steward uh, really was viewed a lot like a lawyer or a protector. And I grew up kind of admiring union stewards. I went to school at Case Western Reserve University. I got my bachelor's degree and my law degree from Case Western Reserve, where I served on the law review, was very active in my law school, really fell in love with the law. It kind of ties into what I said about how I grew up. The law sort of gave me a framework to stand up for and defend people. And so I really kind of bloomed in law school, my love for the law, and more importantly, at least in this moment, my love for the rule of law. I've spent over 2 decades in the courtroom. The first half of my career was as a prosecutor, both state and federal. I focused on, for the most part, in my prosecutor career, on violent crimes. I was a homicide prosecutor and a crimes against women and children prosecutor. As a federal prosecutor, I worked again on violent crimes and prosecuted immigration-related offenses, as well as a host of other offenses. Most of the immigration-related stuff dealt with folks who were illegally in the country for some reason, had been deported and had come back illegally. Let's see. In private practice, the second sort of half of my career, I came out, left the DA's office, started my own practice. I focused at first on criminal defense, sort of start with what you know. I knew the criminal world, criminal law, started representing accused people. My practice developed into a civil rights practice, representing folks in the police brutality space, so bringing those civil rights actions in federal court. Most of my cases involved either police violence, official police misconduct, and or conditions of confinement cases, bringing sort of cases involving how once a person and folks are in custody, how they are treated by the
Right.
government. In addition to that, I currently serve as general counsel to the Federation of Public Service Employees, which is a union here. Let's see, in the legislature, I've worked on many issues, sort of kitchen table issues and public safety issues have been my jam. And I'm a mom, a dog owner, as we were just talking about, two fur babies, and really a lifelong believer that public service should really be about people and impact people's lives, not politics and not political for its own sake. So that's my spiel.
Well, that's a good spiel. Thank you so much for that. I'm a dog owner myself. I got two, so if you hear them barking, just ignore them.
All good.
Uh, they're usually pretty good about that, so I don't have to work on too much. Okay, well, thanks for that. Now, tell us why you're running for the Attorney General position this year.
Yeah. Thanks for asking that question. That question comes up a lot, obviously, on the campaign trail. And I guess I would say to you that my life of representing the people, usually against powerful interests, kind of led me to, I think, prepared me for this moment in time. I fundamentally believe that Attorney General, the Attorney General's office needs to become the People's Protection Office, not a political stepping stone. I think we've seen for the last 2 decades an Attorney General's office who hasn't been on the forefront of real people, of working families, and has had very little impact on people's lives, their everyday lives. One thing I'm kind of hearing a lot on the campaign trail is a lot of folks don't know what the Attorney General does. And that's not normal. The people should know exactly what the Attorney General does. So, right now, I think many Georgians feel that our system, our legal system, really all our systems work for the powerful, work for corporations, work for political interests or politicians. Oftentimes, those who abuse their authority, agencies that cut corners. And I've spent my entire legal career standing on the other side of that imbalance, the imbalance of power versus regular people. So we know that the Attorney General's office has enormous power to enforce the law. I'd say power and responsibility to enforce the law fairly, to protect consumers, to prosecute corruption, and to defend the Constitution, which is extraordinarily important in this moment. I want to see that power used with discipline, with independence, with integrity, and with courage, not for headlines, but for results that matter in the lives of working families. So at the core of this race and what it is about, I think it is trust. We are living in a trust deficit. A lot of working families don't have trust in our government. They don't have trust in our institutions. And I think we have to be intentional about rebuilding that. And I think Georgia citizens, um, deserve to trust that the top lawyer in this state, the top law enforcement or lawyer in this state, the top legal advisor, the legal voice for this state works for them first.
Right. Okay, thank you. And I guess of those broad categories, from what you're saying, that protecting the public and consumers would that be your probably primary priority number one? I
Yeah,
guess of those broad, yeah, okay, okay,
yeah,
yeah,
I would say that. Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say really broadly is that I want to see everyday Georgians protected. So
right,
that means aggressive consumer protection enforcement, holding bad actors, corporations, powerful people who violate the law accountable when they exploit families, seniors, workers, and small businesses. All of these things are happening in Georgia and have been happening in Georgia. It's very difficult for the everyday average working person to take on big corporate interests or big powerful interests. It's hard to
right.
get a lawyer to do it if you can't afford that, and they shouldn't have to. Really, the Attorney General's job is to do that work. So I look forward to doing that. And of course, public integrity and corruption is extraordinarily important in this moment. It will be a focus for me. I spent my life sort of doing that work, both as a prosecutor and as a civil rights lawyer, taking folks to court when they violate the Constitution. No one is above the law. No one is beneath the law. I believe that fundamentally to my core. And I think that my career, the variety in my career speaks to that truth. So, whether it's misusing public funds, abusing power, self-dealing. The Attorney General has to be willing to follow the law and the facts wherever they lead. And none of this is political. And then thirdly, I'd say constitutional enforcement. So what we are hearing on the campaign trail is a lot of folks are concerned about the rule of law. They are concerned about flagrant, not
Like,
fragrant. I got some flowers behind me that are fragrant, but
right.
flagrant violations of constitutional law. So it
Right.
is the Attorney General's job to ensure that state and local actors and federal actors, to be quite frank with you, follow the law and respect the constitutional rights of citizens and their civil rights. So enforcing due process, making sure that equal protection under the law is not just a theory, but it is a practice, and lawful, responsible, constitutional policing, not selective policing, not politically motivated policing, but consistent policing that is designed to protect and serve the people. These are priorities that matter a great deal to me, and they reflect my experience as a lawyer, how I have spent my career, and also just who I am as a person, how I grew up, and what I believe.
Thank you. Now, the next question I was going to ask, are there any specific issues that, beyond the general, are there really specific issues that concern you that you want to focus on? I just want to throw this out there, and I don't want to put you on the spot because it's still happening as we're speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But yesterday we had the case where the Trump administration is trying to get to voter ballot files, and I'm sure the AG has to play a role in that. So if you want to respond to that, you can, or if it's still a little bit too new, we can
Mm-hmm.
move past that. But are there any specific issues like that that you can think of that you really want to focus on as AG?
Yeah, well, I can respond to that, and then I can talk because that is
Okay.
most emergent. I can talk about that. You may have heard that myself and two other state representatives were on the scene, as well as other state legislators in the Fulton County and Atlanta delegation. We were there to observe. We were there to report to our constituents about what was happening. And to just make sure that our local partners felt supported in that moment. I will tell you that it is extraordinary. An extraordinary thing happened in Fulton County.
Right.
A federal search warrant that was the county had no notice of, that was executed as if the Fulton County Elections Hub was some sort of drug house or dope house. These are government officials who represent the people, and under the ordinary course of what I would expect from law enforcement officers who are investigating a crime, if they are in fact investigating a real crime, is that there would be coordination, there would be respect, there would be dialogue, there would be notice. Largely our voter data, the boxes of voter data, and we're told that it's approximately 700 boxes of original voter information, voter ballots, etc., were under seal by court order and were securely stored as required by Georgia law. It's also important to know this. The search warrant is purporting to be investigating in a criminal capacity the 2020 election, not the 2022 election, not the 2024 election, not any of the elections we've had in 2025, but the 2020 election. This has been the most investigated election, I think, in history, certainly probably in Georgia history. There have been multiple recounts, at least 3 counts of these ballots, dozens of court cases involving these claims that there was somehow fraud in the 2020 election, an audit by the Republican State Elections Board that concluded that there was no fraud that would have impacted the election results. And we've had Republican elected officials that have said unequivocally, Joe Biden won the 2020 election. Despite all that, we have a search warrant served on Fulton County, not by the Atlanta FBI, not at the behest of the Atlanta United States Attorney, but this investigation is being run primarily by a Missouri U.S. attorney who's been appointed by the president to, I guess, conduct these quote unquote investigations. And it just does exactly what I sort of said, the reasons why I'm running. It is done to undermine trust, in my opinion, although I can't speak to the motives of folks. It feels like this is being done to undermine the trust that voters have in our elections. It is being done to perpetuate a well-documented lie, and that is that President Trump won the election in 2020. And lastly, I think it is being done to intimidate voters. It is being done to uh, suppress the vote. What folks out there want to not happen in 2026 and certainly in 2028, and that is for voters to come out and have their voice heard, particularly voters that they believe, they meaning the folks that are instituting these proceedings, perpetuating these lies, voters that they believe will not vote for them. And so it is extraordinarily disconcerting. Myself and two colleagues posted about going to Fulton County to be there to observe. And Roger Stone, we all know Roger Stone. It's circulating now, a comment that Mr. Stone posted under that informative post that the three of us were C words and that we were going to jail. So, this is sort of par for the course. None of us are afraid. None of us will be deterred. We will do our jobs to represent the people and stand up to the powerful. So that's the Fulton County raid. I guess in terms of issues, that specific issues that are important to me, I think always, if you're an attorney general or you're a prosecutor of any sort, you have to be concerned about public safety, and you have to do that in a real way. It's not by slogans, right? It's by evidence, it's by facts, and it's by enforcement, constitutional enforcement of our laws. Every elected person government has a primary responsibility to protect the people. I take that seriously. I'm one of the only folks in this race who have ever done that for a living. I've already shared with you my passion for workers' rights and working families. So we will be looking at wage theft and misclassification of workers, which I believe quietly sort of drains millions of dollars from working families. We are about to be probably under, I think the governor just issued yet another state of emergency for the state of Georgia. What we know about these states of emergency is that lots of folks engage in price gouging during these kinds of emergencies. Hundreds of complaints have been sent to the current Attorney General's office about price gouging during natural disasters. We have not seen any action from the current Attorney General's office. I think reining in corporate malfeasance to include insurance companies, who I believe have some of the most anti-working family policies of any other industry. The insurance companies, as a business model, I believe, collect these premiums from working families and then routinely deny claims that they should not deny and put working families in very difficult positions, promising them that they're going to stand up for them when something bad happens and then figuring out a way not to do it because it impacts their bottom line. That has to stop. Somebody has to stand up to insurance companies. I've done that in private practice. I will do that as the Attorney General. Housing instability. We know that there are corporate actors out there who utilize what they call algorithmic price fixing. So what we see is that these corporations will get together using platforms, using artificial intelligence, and they will collude about how to set rental prices. There have been several states that have taken legislative action to stop this. There have been attorney generals who have sought to preclude them from doing it. It is a very bad monopolistic practice. We are doing very little to police it, very little to stop it. And I think that it is one of the causes, not the only, but one of the causes of our rents, the price of rent being artificially high, particularly in the metro area and in rural communities. As Attorney General, that will be a focus of mine. I'm going to need a little help from the legislature because I think our laws need to catch up with some of the sophisticated ways that corporations are scamming working families. But certainly that's important. That's important to me. So those are sort of three. I can go on, but I'll stop there.
Thank you. And you already mentioned this. The next question was going to ask you what do you think sets yourself apart from your opponents in this race? And you mentioned that already. Could you just sort of summarize that again? What is it? What advantage do you have over your opponent rival for the primary. We don't know if there's going to be more right now. There's two of you, but what do you think? What do you think your advantages or your strengths are
Well,
comparatively speaking? So,
yeah, well, I think, depending on the candidate, the conversation about that,
right,
how I distinguish myself can be more specific or nuanced. But generally
right,
speaking, with all of these candidates, none of them, to my knowledge, have ever been a prosecutor. They've never stood as a representative of the people, a state actor representing the people in court enforcing law. Um, some of them may have worked with law enforcement, who might come down to the Capitol and lobby for things, but none of them have been in the trenches with our law enforcement partners on the scene of crimes, understanding deeply how our criminal justice system works, how investigations go, and how accountability should work under the law. I have done that. There is no one whose experience can compare to that. And if you are applying to be the top prosecutor for the state, and you want to see this office behave in a way that a prosecutor could wield the power of investigation, wield the power to hold people accountable, you need someone who has that experience, who understands what that work requires, who knows how to build a case, and who knows how to do it in a way that respects the Constitution. So I think that's one of the primary things that distinguishes me. And I've said that to the public, and we'll keep spreading that as we go across the state and explain the importance of the role to people for the things that matter most.
okay, thank you. All right, so let's switch over a little bit to politics. I know it's
Mhm.
maybe a little dreary sometimes, but you'll be part of a statewide campaign. You got a primary, you're gonna be part of a
Mhm.
statewide campaign. What do you see? Our Democratic Party has struggled sometimes with statewide campaigns. What do you see from your experience as a candidate yourself? Uh, how do you think this statewide campaign should play out? What are you going to do in your specific campaign to
Mhm.
aid that statewide campaign?
Well, I think I would just say three things. One, turnout, 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 turnout.
All right.
We have got to run a disciplined county by county, precinct by precinct, even get out the vote operation that prioritizes, of course, our base voters, those who are loyal, but expands. It's base plus, expanding participation among people who often sit out on down ballot races or non-presidential
Mhm.
races. I think a lot of folks have this sort of perpetual question: does my vote really matter? Do these
Right.
folks really care about my vote? And one of the tenets of the way I am running my race is to talk to as many voters as I possibly can in places outside the metro area. That's why we have been to places like Cairo, Georgia. We've been to Liberty County. We've been to Savannah. We've been to Rome. We've been to White County. We've been all across the state talking to voters wherever they are. And so Democrats have got to be serious about their electorate. Our electorate wants to feel seen and heard and that they are prioritized. And I think that starts by going to see about people. That's what my grandmother used to say. If I could tell her I loved her all the time on the phone, if I didn't come see about her, she sometimes would lay that guilt trip on me. But I think it's
Right.
important. People want to feel like you care about them. And so that is part of our turnout operation. The second, I think, is message discipline. I think we as Democrats have struggled with our messaging at times. We have got to be clear about our messaging, and our messaging has to come from the bottom up, not the top down. We should be talking to voters about the things that they care about. And if you don't know what they care about, it's because you are not talking to them. So we do not pull issues out of the sky and wave them around like a flag and expect people to fall in line. We have to start with the people. They care about their lives. They are concerned about the American dream. They do not feel seen by our government. They do not feel seen by our political system. And so we have got to tell the people clearly and plainly that we are in this for them, that we see them, and that we are committed to doing the hard work of making their lives better. And then lastly, I would say coalition building or coalition maintaining. That means we have to be talking to our labor partners. We have to be talking to our faith leaders. We have to be talking to our civil rights advocates. We have to be talking to our law enforcement partners who care about criminal justice. We have to talk to consumer groups. We have. This is a coalition party, and it's harder to be a coalition party. It's much easier to be a marching band than to be a jazz
Right.
band. So I think we have to work on coalition building, and that requires us to be talking to each other and cooperating and coordinating to turn out our base and to get those folks who are either independents or disengaged, disappointed voters.
Right. Okay, thanks. So kind of we covered most everything. I think I was on my list. I always at the end, I always like to give the candidate, I gave you a chance to introduce yourself. Now at the end, give me your 1 to 2 minute sort of stump speech on why we should elect Tanya Miller as the next Attorney General of the state of Georgia.
Okay, well, I would say this. Georgia needs an attorney general who knows the law and who respects the Constitution and who isn't afraid to enforce it, no matter who is involved. I've spent my career protecting people when the system failed them. I've prosecuted serious crimes. I have fought for civil rights. I have defended workers. I have held the powerful accountable, to include insurance companies. And I know how that office works. And I don't know because I read it. I know because I've lived it. And I think if the people want an attorney general who is not afraid to stand up for them, who will protect consumers, who will prosecute corruption, defend their constitutional rights, and put the people first above politics, then I am asking for them to vote for me in this primary. This is about trust, and I am ready to earn it. And I hope to get the opportunity to do so.
All right. Tanya, thank you so much. I hope you will take the Roger Stone thing as a badge of honor. I can think of a few C words I could call Roger Stone, but children might be watching this video,
You
so I
do.
won't do that. But again, thank you so much for being a state representative, for being a prosecutor, and doing all the things you're doing, including what you had to go through yesterday. I appreciate that, and I always tell every candidate that running for statewide office is a big undertaking, and I just have to give thanks to everyone who does it. It's a
Thank you.
kind of service that most of us never have to go through. I ran once for 2 counties, and that about drove me crazy. And you're doing 159, so you got a way bigger task than that. But I do appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I'll
All
see you
right.
soon, I hope, in person.
Yeah, come on up to North Georgia anytime the weather finally allows it.
I promise you I will, and I look forward to it.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Bye bye.